Welcome back to the I Am Real Estate Show with Ray and Danielle. Sandra has the day off. We're here with John Spurr. I'd like to remind you guys that when you rent, 100% of your interest rate goes to them.
When you rent, your rate is 100%.
Yeah, when you rent, your rate is 100%. Remember that. I'm going to say that every segment so till you guys get that. Go ahead, Danielle.
You know, we're talking about the rental rates, the buying rates. The interest rates have gone up over the last couple of years, and that things have kind of changed in the market, and that they're going to stay high. And we've talked before about when you're renting versus owning. And there's something I saw recently talking about how the affordability of houses, you know, rates have gone up, prices have gone up, everything's gone up so much in the last couple of years that they were comparing renting versus buying a couple years ago compared to now, and kind of how that's changed, and trying to say that, you know, it's getting harder to buy a home, and that sometimes it looks like buying a home is going to actually cost you more than renting. What are your thoughts on that?
So, yeah, I can see where our average rental prices right now are probably a little less than a mortgage payment if you were doing, you know, a down payment assistance program, a 3% or 5% down. I think when you're in that 10 to 20% down range, it's very comparable to what it would cost to rent. But again, as Ray brought the show in, when you rent, your rate is 100%. And what I mean by that is if you're paying $1,800 a month in rent, that's to put a roof over your head. But you are essentially taking $1,800 and throwing it in a bucket and setting it on fire. You're not getting anything in return. You're not paying down the principal balance on a mortgage on a house that you own, and you're not getting the appreciation on that house. And like we talked about last segment, on just $100,000 home, you're looking at somewhere between $7,000 to $12,000 in appreciation over 2 years. If you're buying a $300,000 home, you're looking at almost $30,000 in appreciation over 2 years. So although you may pay $250 a month more on a mortgage payment than rent, you're gaining so much more in equity that it's offsetting the fact that a mortgage payment right now might be more than rent. And remember, as you were so happy that I brought it back, you marry the house and you date the rate. When you rent, rents continue to go up. And every year, rents continue to go up. And you're only in a 1 year or 2 year lease. When that lease is up, your rent could go up again.
It's going up.
When you do a 30-year fixed mortgage, you have locked in your cost of living. And if we're at a higher rate environment, the only thing that can do is mean that your payment is going to come down as you refinance into lower rates. So, I mean, I'm happy to blow holes in these arguments all day long that renting would be cheaper than buying. It just isn't. It doesn't matter what the rate is. It's never cheaper to rent than buy.
Oh. Well, and I think that's a really good point to bring up, too, that, you know, year after year, as you're signing a new lease, there are a lot of people right now that are having a surprise of $500 or more increase in their monthly payment in their rentals. That's not going to happen to you if you own your home.
I own 4 rentals. We raised the rents on all of them $250 this year on each one when the lease came due, because that was what the market would allow me to do.
I was thinking that I'm trying to wonder what scares renters not to buy. What is the thing that they're afraid of? They're afraid of people knowing that they can't afford to buy right now? Is it the fact that they're worried about they don't have enough down payment? Is it the fact that they just don't want that? They're just afraid of being in charge of something that belongs to them. They were afraid that now they got to be responsible for it, where when you're renting, someone else is taking care of every issue that comes up.
It's definitely the unknown. I mean, the majority of people renting right now are going to end up being first-time home buyers. They don't know where to start.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we all lean towards the Google machine to learn things, and anybody that is a self-proclaimed blending expert or real estate expert gets out there and starts giving their 2 cents, and it's confusing. I talked to a couple at the beginning of the week, and they had spent a month researching all sorts of stuff on the internet, and unfortunately about half of what they read was wrong or misleading, and they realized that they were probably a good 6 to 12 months away from actually buying instead of being ready to buy right now. So it's finding an expert, finding an expert like the Johnson Smith team and myself to guide you through the process.
And talking about first-time home buyers and not knowing where to go with questions, we'll hold a class and sit down and teach those things. I mean, we're here to educate, not just, expecting you to be ready today. We're open to helping through the entire process, even if you are 6 months away or more.
Exactly.
And that's something that I think that just not knowing, like you said, the unknown, just the not being aware of what you need to know or what questions to ask, that scares a lot of people, and it can be paralyzing to feel like you don't know what to do, or you don't know what question to ask.
How do we remind them that the resource is not Google? It's actually going to a lender or to a real estate agent. And if you're comfortable, you come to the Johnson Smith team. We can't help you. We know that we know a lender, we know a title company, we know people who can provide this information for you. Information is the most powerful thing to have, but it has to be good information.
It's all about knowing that you're talking to an expert.
Yes.
And that's the hardest. We all know, sitting in this room, that's the hardest thing about our industry and what we do, is separating ourselves from the ones that are or maybe not as good, or maybe not an expert, or maybe this isn't their first career. Right. This is a moonlighting job, and so it's getting in front of and talking to somebody that can guide you and educate you and not tell you this is what you're going to. You never hear me tell a borrower, you're going to go do this.
Exactly.
I ask a series of questions and get to know their unique situation, and then we start putting a plan together and educating, because being educated in the process so that you can make the right decision for yourself is what's most important.
And options. Having the options in front of them. A recent client that talked to John had come back and said he sat down with me, he explained the options that I had, and helped me understand which option, if I choose this is where it takes me. If I choose that, that's where it takes me. I think having those options and being able to make an educated decision
is empowering.
It's so empowering. It's so helpful to be able to move forward. And another thing about, we've talked about using a local lender versus a national chain. When you've got a local team who understands the market here and who knows Tucson, then it makes it so much easier to give that information to them, as opposed to, like you're looking on Google, you're watching YouTube videos. That person in another place may have completely different situations where they know their city, but they don't know here. And taking that advice without talking to someone local, that could be a very bad decision for them.
Go ahead.
And I was going to say, the other thing we've got to remember is marketing has moved away from what used to be the phone book and the newspaper, and then it went to TV, then it went to radio. Now everybody markets on social media. Every single person that's trying to find business, to get any type of business, is marketing on social media. And so now you just have a plethora of information to sift through and try to figure out what is right and what is wrong. And buying real estate and mortgage lending is very subjective. Everybody has their own opinions. Everybody approaches it differently. And I'm not saying the way I do it is the right way, but my way has been very successful over 30 years. And I've helped a lot of people.
Yeah, we're here with John Spurr, who is the owner of Inspired Life Mortgage. And the thing I think emphasized that you get to make the choice, but we provide you with all the options to make sure that you're making an informed choice, an informed decision. You're listening to the I Am Real Estate Show here on 1030 AM The Voice. We'll be back with more of the show and on topics relevant to real estate issues and news about lending with John Spurr. And Danielle and I, we miss you, baby.